Hello and welcome to the Chase Aerospace Gaming channel. In a recent episode of Calling All Debs hosted by Jared Huckabee, we were made privy to a lot of awesome answers to questions that were voted on by the community, and that's kind of what Calling All Devs is. This is just more or less a quick summation of what was said there. So the first question is, what is Weapons 2.0? It was asked to Johnny Jessivivius, senior systems designer in the Manchester studio, UK. And his answer is it's very similar to the items in Ships 2.0, generally making everything more efficient on the code side and switching things over to DataForge, which should allow for much more interesting / weird damage types, weapon behavior, fire modes, etc. This also includes attachments. The Custodian, which is a weapon, currently features this kind of charged burst fire mode, which was not possible before without special code support. Basically, this makes it a lot easier and faster for the devs to make weapons interesting and fun. Also, the way weapon behaviors tie into the heat and power system of a ship can really be explored now, like using power draw or temperature to dynamically change how the weapons behave, think fire rate, accuracy, etc., and how it's interacting with the ship systems like coolers and power generators. So bringing everything into this new 2.0 kind of system, like Ships 2.0 and Weapons 2.0 and Items 2.0, is going to really make this kind of thing easier for the devs. And it's also a pretty strong future-proof kind of thing, we can hope. And the next question was asked to Sherry Heiberg, the archivist in the Los Angeles studio, who I believe has been doing all the Lore Maker's Guide to the Galaxy videos lately. The question was, will there be an in-game way to research lore and history in the Star Citizen universe, like a museum or a database? And then Sherry said she would like to see the ARK database to actually have like a physical place or headquarters players could visit, like a museum. She also wants the Galactopedia to be accessible via their web browser and also in-game. So I personally think having like the ARK database have like a physical location and be like this really expansive, super detailed, interactive museum would be freaking awesome. But, you know, we can hope. All these cool ideas. There's a lot of stuff to take care of first, but that'd be really cool. Chad McKinney, lead gameplay engineer. The question was, will quantum travel be blocked inside asteroid fields in the future? Because it kind of doesn't make sense that that's possible now. And he said the reason you can currently quantum jump through asteroid belts is because of a bunch of optimizations. So basically, like, asteroids aren't physicalized, and well, at a distance they aren't physicalized. So all these things that are the result of trying to make the game run smoother in the present. But they know it's an issue and they're gonna fix it. So no, in the future you won't be able to quantum jump through asteroid belts. Also, there was in a previous Calling All Devs, I guess I'll just go ahead and show that here. But they discussed the difficulties that players were having with quantum jumping to planets and like having to fly all the way around the planet, and it just takes a really long time. So they were thinking about simplifying the quantum jump system around planets by having a lot of jump points that were closer together once you get to the planet, to make traveling around a lot faster and easier, and not making you want to pull your hair out as you're flying for 10 minutes to get from one side of the planet to the other side of the planet. Because yes, it might be realistic, but man, it's taking a long time. So that's something to look forward to there. Something that they are considering. Ties in nicely here. So okay, next question. Okay, so John Pritchett, senior physics engineer, had a ton of questions. He like was the grand finale of the show, and he just let loose with the Gravlev knowledge bombs. So let's get into this. First question was, what's the deal with hover bikes and their current implementation? And this has been talked about a couple times on the show. He wrote a very extensive post on Spectrum going over Gravlev tech and why it is the way it is. But he kind of reiterates it here. He says, first of all, 3.0 Gravilevs were completely broken. And of course, I'm paraphrasing. I am paraphrasing all of these answers, by the way, just to make that very clear. It does nothing John wanted it to do in the multiplayer live build. IFCS itself has been in pretty bad shape since 3.0 came out. He does say he's been working on it a lot, and the latest version in the PTU is looking somewhat promising, and he thinks the Gravlev tech should be more or less working satisfactorily by 3.2. What is the goal of Gravlev? Next question. He wants to design a very general system for devs to use to create unique and stable gravitational characteristics for Gravlev vehicles like tanks or space bikes or, like everything in between. Or even bigger than a tank. Ooh. The hover vehicle control system is really based on using the terrain as the input value, setting a goal elevation, using what amounts to a spring simulation to achieve that elevation, and look good doing it. The vision is essentially to be very close to a realistic hover vehicle, more of a simulation kind of thing. How does the atmospheric flight model contribute to the design problem? And so it turns out John actually does a lot of work on the atmospheric model as well. So I guess if it's like heavily physics based, he's got his hand in it. So still trying to figure out what everyone does in the company. I kind of took a break from like all the names for a little while. I'm easing back into it. So he wants to utilize drag and gravity in the controls model. So all the variability in an atmosphere will come into play for all the vehicles, further adding to their controls quirks and uniqueness. What it means essentially is that you'll have less thrust power to go forward because drag is pushing you back. So there's that. But, when you're trying to slow down, you'll slow down faster because drag is helping you. And also when you turn, you won't just go sliding off into infinity, kind of like you do now. That atmospheric drag will kind of push you as an increased surface area, because most vehicles tend to be longer than they are wide. That increased surface area on the side will help kind of push you along the turn. So that's kind of cool, and it'll definitely change the way your vehicle maneuvers. Also, like if you turn up, like if you pitch up, this is me going extra details because I'm an aerospace engineer by educational background, not by trade. But when you pitch up, typically the belly of your vehicle is going to have a lot more surface area too. So same thing with turning. Like with ships, a lot of times your side surface area isn't going to have a lot. There's not going to be a lot there because you got that skinny wings, kind of like a narrow body, but your belly a lot of times, like the Gladius, for example, has a lot of surface area on the bottom and the top. So if you kind of roll to the left and then pitch up into the turn, and that's how you turn, you're going to get a lot of drag force hitting the bottom of your vehicle in that turn. It might decrease your turning radius for tighter turns. I don't know, just throwing it out there, trying to predict how this physics system is going to impact. That's the word I was looking for. Impact, like the air on the bottom of your vehicle. How it's going to impact flight performance of all these vehicles, and it's really exciting. It's really cool. I love physics simulations and thinking about this kind of stuff. But all right, next question. How does the atmospheric flight model affect the difference between maneuvering thrusters and VTOL thrusters? So right now, the vehicles which have VTOL, those thrusters will be utilized strictly for countering gravity, which leaves the other thrusters free for maneuvering. So if you don't have VTOLs, you're losing out on some maneuverability. And the wear and tear on maneuvering thrusters will be noticeably greater than that of VTOL thrusters, because VTOL thrusters are kind of built to do that. Well, that's the reasoning anyways. And your maneuvering thrusters are going to be, a little bit smaller and, just kind of dedicated to a small range of motion. So they're going to have to work a little bit harder and more continuously in atmospheric flight to accomplish the same thing. The VTOL thrusters would just kind of, they're built to do that. They do it efficiently. They're good at it. So if you don't have VTOL thrusters and you're trying to hover a lot and fly a lot in atmosphere and spend a lot of time in gravity and in a draggy environment, you're going to be wearing down those maneuvering thrusters a lot faster than you would if you just had some VTOL thrusters. I think the Terrapin, like some of these bigger ships, have dedicated VTOL thrusters. Might be wrong about that. I don't have all the ship components memorized yet. I'm sure I will eventually, but okay, moving on. Where do you want IFCS to go in the future? So engine optimizations have hit the IFCS pretty hard, but now that 3.0 is out, John can really dig into fixing all that. So IFCS, as it currently is out of sync with the physics simulation. So it feels like the system is drunk, and it's ultimately because it got kind of pushed back due to some optimization things. So it doesn't get to update in sync with the rest of the physics in the game. So that's kind of the reasoning behind that. I don't really understand all the technical stuff without spending way too much time trying to understand it, but that's essentially the vibe that I got. So what he's done is he's separated the control input from basically the physics simulation part of the IFCS and optimized it so that the physics simulation can be updated in step with the rest of the physics in the game. So we can hope to see this in an update fairly soon. Should help things be much smoother and in sync. So last question was, is user feedback useful? He said, yeah, it sure is useful. And he uses it and tries to incorporate it into what he does. And he also passes it along. Though he did point out that he's not really in control of what the design goals are. He just kind of has to work toward achieving the design goals, but he does take user feedback and tell the people who are in charge of creating the design goals and say, hey, this is what the backers are experiencing. Maybe if we change the goals in this way, we could accommodate that. And of course, he takes that into account in his work. And then, without being prompted, he kind of tacked on an additional answer just for bonus fun at the end. And he says, one more thing. And one more thing. You know, guy, Geo Get Money. You probably know him. But one more thing. He has the system functioning the way he wants in single player, but in heavy server loads, the performance really suffers because it can't get the data it needs fast enough. So this will essentially be the last hurdle to clear, as with everything else. Optimization, optimization, optimization. So it looks like 3.4, slated for Q4 2018, has all of these cool like server-side optimizations that are planned to be implemented by then. So I have high hopes. Of course, that might change a lot of the way that things are done and lead to additional optimizations that are needed in 2019. But the point is, we're making progress all the time, and the future is bright. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed my little paraphrasing summary, kind of throwing in my input here and there for the Calling All Devs. A lot of good info in that episode. The link will be in the description, and also the other Calling All Devs episode, which I mentioned because it related to this one. There's the added value for you. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.